Welcome, everybody. We're very excited to have with us tonight Grant Drumheller with poet Ken Rosen to talk about Grant's current show that we're sitting in, Adventure of the Unknown. And I'm sure he'll explain that title as we go.
Yeah, give me my statement. I've got to remember what I said. Oh, I got a copy of it. Right
So first, just a little bit about the format. So for those of you that are here, just know we always also live stream every talk on Facebook if you can't physically make it to the gallery. We also record and put them all on YouTube. So if you ever miss a show or an artist talk, all the videos of both the talks and every exhibition we've ever had are on YouTube. And if you do watch it on Facebook and you'd like to ask a question, just type your question into the comments section. Just do it, please do it when you have the question, because if you wait until the end, there's a little bit of a delay, and so we may not see it until the talk is actually over. So with that, let me tell you a little bit about our two speakers. So Grant Drumheller, hopefully most, if not all of you know, he earned his BFA and MFA from Boston University. He studied with Philip Guston, James Weeks, and Reed Kay. Grant has taught at Boston University, the Art Institute of Boston, and is currently Professor Emeritus of Art at the University of New Hampshire. He has been the recipient of a Fulbright Hayes grant in painting to Italy, as well as a Blanche Coleman Award, a National Endowment for the Artists Fellowship, a New England Foundation for the Arts grant, and a grant from the Pollock Krasner Foundation. And joining Grant tonight is poet and professor Kenneth Rosen. Ken was an English professor at the University of Southern Maine and Fulbright professor in Bulgaria. Ken founded the Stone Coast Writers Conference in Brunswick, and he's published over a dozen books, and his work has appeared in the Paris Review, the New Yorker, Poetry Chicago, the Massachusetts Review, and the Salt Hill Journal, just to name a few. And actually we have a book of Ken's in the bookstore, along with the art of Richard Wilson, whose show was in the room back there, and he was seated right in the back there. Ken did a wonderful poetry reading for us at Green Hut a few years ago, and so if you're interested, that video is on Green Hut's YouTube channel. With that, I turn things over to Grant and Ken.
Thank you. Okay. You got your mic? Is it working?
I do, and it's working.
Okay.
I don't know if is it helpful or not so helpful? It helps, okay, good. I'll keep, well, you know, there's a song that goes, "Don't start me talking, I'll tell everything I know." You've heard that song. And actually, Grant sitting next to me has been discovering this for about the last 10 minutes. And I'm going to shut my mouth, as my wife so often tells me, and listen to Grant for a while. I thought Grant's statement of process, we were talking about it, and for me, it's a question of finding in. Oh, hold it, keep it here. Okay, it's a question. It's a question of that's good, of finding a subject and then allowing it to give you a measure of subjective intensity, and so I don't know. Is there a problem?
No, I think.
But anyway, so one of the things that we were talking about is whether or not that person sleeping in that painting was Grant Drumheller. He insists it's not, and I insist that it has to be, because it is not a depiction of somebody taking a nap. It is a subjective creation of someone taking a nap, and the subjective exists in Grant. And do you think it looks like Grant too? Yes, that's the spirit.
Well, what I said to you was that it was my son-in-law,
But my son-in-law looks remarkably like I did at a certain point in my life. In fact, there's photos that we can compare. But I like your idea that I'm in every figure in that painting, that I'm projecting a kind of...
You're in the bushes, you're
Yeah,
in the
I'm in
woods,
everything.
you're in the shadows.
Yeah, right. It's not just the guy who happens to look like
You're in
me.
the purple, you're in the pink.
Yeah, I'm all there.
Okay.
Right. Totally. In the baby.
Wait a minute.
Particularly the baby.
I have to move my chair so that I can keep an eye on Corinne. Make sure that she's smiling. Excuse me.
Oh, she's always smiling.
Okay, but I have to make sure.
She'll let you know she's unhappy.
Okay. Oh, she's got a big smile. That's good. That's
may-
good. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
So maybe I should talk. You wanted me to talk about what I was thinking about when I was naming this show "The Adventure of the Unknown." Do you think I should do that?
Can I do that?
No, I could do it.
Oh, you do it. Do it,
Okay.
absolutely.
No.
That's
Well,
what I've been trying to get.
I mean, when you do these shows after 45 years of painting and you come up with titles, it's usually recent art or recent work or recent painting, or you have to come up with something. But you know as an artist that no one cares. So you strive for something that's meaningful and maybe more particular. And I remember doing the statement, which I do 3 times a year, for this show, and it occurred to me that this work, the larger work that this represents, which these paintings are some 9 foot, 7 foot, they're not easy to move, let alone paint. So the way I work and the way I start the work is I will create a fabric of marks and color, and that will be the process that I employ, and I will leave that for oftentimes many months, if not years, and just let them be in the studio as something visual that I've just make. And, and Ken, I think, was interested in the fact that at some point I break down, the painting breaks down, my desire to do something emerges. I overcome this resistance to change and this overture that I've begun on these images, and I begin to create some form in some space. So in this painting here, I remember my daughter's head, and you can see a remnant of it in the center of the painting. I began her head and the way her arms and her leg, it was something that she was doing. And my daughter Tess is, I'll just say the reality is she's 40, she's a businesswoman, and she's a very bright gal, and she's looking at her husband and her baby and thinking, to me, I'm projecting this, what in the hell have I done? So I feel like that's her first reaction. And she's tired. Fatigue is what she's feeling. And this head came about, and I thought, wow, that sort of reminds me of something. And then it was in the wrong place. And here's the other thing you struggle with as an artist. You do one thing, it's pretty good, and then the rest of the thing sucks. And then you start working everywhere else, and then that looks good, and then this old thing you did, like that head, is wrong. So I moved it over literally like an inch. You can see what was underneath. So it's this constant struggle for the image to emerge in that original fabric and feel like it belongs. It's supposed to be there. And you haven't thought about it too much, and it just kind of comes naturally. Does that make sense from my, am I not?
Hold up your mic.
I don't know, is it on?
Yeah, it is, you're on.
Okay, great. I'm seeing more than I saw before, and that rhymes. But I am, and I am seeing more, but I can't say that I see how you did it, but I am certainly glad you did it.
Well, there's no photo like this. Like I didn't know, I mean, of course I use source material, I looked at those things, but this is all an imagination. There is a back porch roughly like this, but I mean, I'm constantly looking at other artists. So I look at Bonnard and I think, well, that's not his backyard in southern France in 1920. It's a picture of that. So I feel like I'm liberated by the reality versus my imagination and what needs to happen. And what needs to happen is the thing that's in your, I think, in your instinct. And so I'm in the constant state of fostering an instinct and finding an inner voice and trying to see what that is, rather than do the right thing, mix the pretty color, make. So it's this constant kind of conflict. It's a good thing, I think. Not making a lot of sense, but that's sort of the process. And as I talk about that painting, I think of the other things. So the head emerged, then maybe the white flowers, some little part of that, and then down on the left, the dog, and maybe the baby. And there was my wife and somebody else in the lower left, that left. So there's a constant back and forth. It's not prescribed. There's no sketch. It's a performance that happens while I'm doing it. Over several months.
Well, I think that everyone here is here because we are excited by the process of making art, as well as what making art achieves. And to me, the making of art requires a confluence of things. It practice, talent, passion, intelligence, and these things come across as drama, and then there is something else that comes across as a philosophy of life, and a quality of I want to say nobility, but it is nobility tethered to actuality, and I think that's what constitutes the greatness now of Grant's work.
Keep your mic closer, bud.
All right, I'm not good at this.
Hold it near your stomach.
I'm used to people in the next classroom coming over and asking, Ken, can you keep it down a little, something like that. But it's dramatic, and I think depiction is not dramatic in the relationship between the three figures in the painting. The dog is minding his own business, but the spouse is content with his adoration, and the wife is somewhat ambiguous about these things, and that creates the magical drama coherently that represents for us the chaos of daily life. I hope that makes sense. Okay, I'll stop now, Grant.
Okay, great. Let me see, what else do I want to talk about? This painting, I guess I wanted to speak a little bit about, because it seems a little bit more brushy, if you want to use a word, and it's a result, really, of having worked on this painting for a long time, setting it aside, and then in the last 30 minutes finishing it. Now, when someone says that, you think, oh yeah, all right. But I feel like I earned it in the process, and one of the things you don't have is someone in the studio confirming any of your instincts. You have to confirm them all yourself. However, I do have an assistant now that I've worked with who's an archivist and also a cataloger, and he's an artist, and he also is a fine art printer. So it's a little dangerous to have someone like that in your studio because they oftentimes have an opinion. And he came in at one point and he said to me, well, that's done, isn't it? So done is an interesting question for an artist because what does that mean to me? Well, I usually ask every artist I know, what does done mean? And I remember asking one of the artists that this assistant has worked with, which is Michael Mazur, who's a painter who died a long time ago, but he was a Boston artist and a pretty big reputation. I remember meeting him. I invited him to UNH to speak, Michael Mazur, that is, the painter. Look him up. And I said to Mike, how do you know painting's done? And I said quickly after that, I'm not trying to be coy, do you have an opinion? Because most people have an opinion. And he said, do the last thing you want to do, don't do. Well, I lived that for 20 years. I mean, I walked around thinking, well, I'm not going to do that last thing I thought I should do. That one little finish thing, or I'm going to go in there and change the background color a little bit. No. But to have this young person who's 35 and has a different vision about what finish, completion, what closing means as an artist, like when is a painting done? You walk out of the room, you get run over, it's done. But I mean, literally, when do you... Well, Picasso used to say, it's done when it's done with you. That's really the old saying. The painting is using you. And that's really true. You are letting the painting guide you. So that's really what this conversation is about. It's about how these objects and how you engage with them, how that line is through the activity, through you, to the object. Your idea, gut, hand. How does that guide you? And to have someone say, Grant, it's you. He said this to me. Everybody knows it's yours. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. The idea of an identity, that you have an identity through your work and that you make things, and then it was complete before I thought it was complete. That is, so that blue was a shadow as well as a brushstroke. Did I have to finish it up and clean it up, and did I have to wipe up the drip marks, and did I have to complete those figures out in the water? No. They're there. Are they there like a photograph? No. Are they there as clear as I could do? Because I'm really fancy. I can do all sorts of shit. I was well trained. I took classes. And I taught. I know how to do a lot. I'm a trick pony, which is a problem. You know, for me, it's to be too, I don't want to say talented, that sounds so, but I'm too I got too much knowledge. How do you find the right amount? It's a big deal.
Oh boy, I go on and I create a lot of problems for myself. I go on and create a lot of problems for myself.
Hold it near your gut.
My grandson tells me, he's sitting right here, he tells me, don't overthink things.
See?
Yeah, he does.
Out of the mouths of babes.
He does, yes. But to me, what you are saying and what I've been trying to say to everybody is that the process ultimately is more valuable than the product. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and that every one of your paintings is asserting that.
You've got to use this arm to do that. Okay. And hold this one still.
All right. If you read the poems of Wallace Stevens carefully, you run into error after error after error. The wrong words, something left out. And there was a terrific essay by the best essay in the Wallace Stevens Review that I've ever read about creating a collected poems. And Stevens had no interest in writing the last word or correcting anything. He wanted to write the next poem.
But didn't he also wander around Hartford looking at the ground, trying to ruminate
He walked to work
every day?
and he talked to himself, yes.
Yes.
And then he wrote things down on scraps of paper. He gave the scraps of paper to the secretary, and he called her dear and asked her to type them up for him.
Any rate, I love that. The reason I asked Ken, and I think, well, first of all, he said nice things about my painting to me. He only said, I think your work is strong, or something like that. And I appreciated that, and I held that in my head, and I thought, I could get up here and yammer on for hours, but I thought it would be interesting to have the point of view of a creator who works with words, who's working abstractly in their mind, trying to find a gut reaction to life. I mean, I think that's really sort of similar. And
At the University of New Hampshire, Grant was friends with a couple of poets, a poet and a novelist who were very dear to me. One was Ted Wiesner, and the other is
Serb?
Huh?
Charlie?
Yeah, Charlie Simic. Thank you. Thanks for the prompt. I am older than Grant. I'm quite sure of that. I'm usually older than everybody. And there's a point in life when what you know is held in place by something that resembles the bags they sell onions in. And these are the cross-hatched bags for onions, and they sell them in there because that's that way how you aerate the onion, and at the same time you can tear them apart and get the onion out and make your salad. And all right, but what you have in your head are not onions. What you have are marbles. And the marbles are always getting lost. And you work like the devil to retrieve those marbles. And he just did in the case of Charlie Simic. Once he mentions him, bingo, the marble is back. But it may not last forever. There was a little restaurant where people gathered. I'll stop soon. I'm getting a signal from my wife. A restaurant that then reestablished itself in the Portland Museum of Art, and then disappeared. And I couldn't think of the name of it. I called my friend Richard on the phone and asked him the name. He couldn't think of the name of it either. And but it didn't worry him the way it worried me. Because my marbles are rolling around on the floor a lot more frequently than his do. He's, 10, 15 years younger than me. But so I waited a couple of days. I called the art museum, and I found someone who was very irritated to take my call. I found someone who remembered the name of the restaurant and provided it to me. And I have been reciting it every day, consciously or accidentally. It was Aurora. Aurora, the goddess of dawn. And when we think of that, and I thought of that immediately, the sun rises, no it doesn't, Earth spins. Aurora.
You did it. You finished. Now ask me a question.
But look, all right, I'll tell you one more thing.
So we can hear.
I'll tell you one more thing. The reason apes huff and puff. Wait a minute. Is it on? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because they're nervous. And you'd be too if you were in the jungle. All right, that's it. Grant, take over.
Well, I would love anybody to ask any questions if they have about any process, or go ahead, please.
Do you remember the last thing you did on that?
I'm going to get up and look at it. Anyway, I did these little wavelets, so that was the last thing I did here. I remember I considered what I was going to do down here, and I left it. And I think that was the last thing to answer your question. Yeah.
So I understand totally the way you finish a painting that is sort of aspirational thing again. But the way you begin a painting, the way you develop a painting, you don't do preliminary drawings, you don't do sketches, you don't do compositional studies.
It's all lost energy. No, it's all lost. To me, it's about the thing emerging, telling me what happens. I mean, it's partially because of the teachers I had and the intensity of my years in graduate school. And it seems ridiculous at age 71 to talk about something that happened in my 20s, but it was pretty intense to have Philip Guston as a teacher, who even then was mythic, but let alone have him come and look at your work and criticize it. So I was painting for him. I remember thinking, I gotta push. Push is the operative word. I was up all night doing paintings. And I would come in a shell of myself. I had to ride my bike with the painting from Brookline into BU, drag it in. I remember I was so happy with myself. I painted a painting. He loved the Renaissance. And we talked about Quattrocento painting a lot. And he loved Piero della Francesca. And subsequently, I got a grant to Italy, and I wanted to go there. That was my excuse. I wanted to look at Quattrocento painting in situ, in the situation it was in, to figure out how they designed these paintings to feel like they architecturally made sense. That was my excuse. I really just wanted to go to Italy and paint and look at those paintings as one part of it. But I remember doing this painting, and I was in love with not Signorelli, but the painter of the Miraculous Host, Uccello. Thank you. You were absolutely right. It was Uccello. I did a painting, and I was thinking of the battle paintings by Uccello. There's one that's in London of a pink ground, and there's these lances and horses and dead bodies on the ground. And I painted my version of that as hockey players. I thought that was so clever. And I remember bringing it in. I'd spent a whole night. I was painting 7 or 8 hours on my feet. I painted an 6-foot painting. Anyway, I brought it in. I was so proud. And I came in and he looked at it. And he had a huge ego. And there was always people following him around. And he looked at it and he said, "Sports Illustrated." And it was like someone hit me, and I said, "Does that mean I have to be old to do a good painting?" So I fired back, because he was old. But I didn't know his wife was sick. She had had a stroke, that he was particularly irritated about being old, because he used to be an old dog. He was out there chasing the girls. And he had great pride in his body and his beauty. He was a handsome young man. He was no longer the smoking maniac that he was. And he reacted, and he turned to me and he dismissed me. "Out. You, out." I felt terrible, and I think I started crying. 25, I'm sitting there crying. So I had a terrible breakdown from that relationship, but it was that experience of trying to get to that place where the paintings painted themselves. That's what I was being taught. I was not being taught to be good. All that preparation had been before. I was in a conservatory. I was drawing 9 hours a day, plus I was painting 6 hours a week. 9 hours a week I was painting, drawing from the figure, and I was painting 6 hours from the figure. I was sculpting from the figure I was taking it. You can't imagine. I could draw a leg like nobody. But that intensity and pressure is what was allowed to then be released. And so I don't need a sketch. I don't need to stand sideways. I don't need to do a kind of conditional piece to create the piece. Either it's good or it's bad, or I paint over the whole damn thing and start over. That's my attitude. Pardon me? Well, I feel like every time I start the picture, when I go into this, everything's can be changed. I can paint it all out then. And if you're working in a fast medium like acrylic or any of those water medias, it's very easy to move paint. It's very easy to take gesso and go over the whole thing and do a whole new painting. It moves very quickly. At least when I work, it does. At any rate, what else?
Well, I think that we need to talk about the colors, because it seems to me that each in every painting there is the presence of a chromatic assertion, an inappropriate color that is woven into the beauty of the whole. And that weaving of the inappropriate into the whole constitutes a kind of intensity and a kind of pictorial drama that excites our looking at your paintings.
So, like, give me an example. Choose another painting.
Well, look at that teal, the rainbow dissolving into teal up there. Look at that, those bushes. I mean, and the rainbow itself seems almost more, those are the colors with which you're working, and that seems almost more literary, a dimension of the painting than a pictorial one.
Interesting.
And no one's paying attention to the rainbow, but there it is. And it's beautiful, Grant. And to me, that the chromatic chaos that you assert control over, I mean, what's all that purple stuff up there on the very tippy top? In the right.
I mean, it's not
corner.
literal.
Of course, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
incorporating that in the whole and having the passion to project a vision that incorporates that, that's what makes it.
Well,
Ken would say.
thank you.
I don't know.
Put it closer.
Nothing is okay.
It's
I'm
working
still
fine.
here. Yeah.
I'm still here too. So you mentioned color, and I think for me, painting is a language of color. It's not just drawing; it's drawing with color. Actually, it's to me that's what it's about. So if you don't utilize color or you don't choose a certain kind of color temperament in each painting, then you're missing out on the language of what the medium is. So that's the short answer. How I do that. I guess I go back to trying to surprise myself and also to challenge myself. So when I look at a tree, I think, well, that's a green, and I can make that a little warmer, and then I pick a red. I just try and move my arm. When your brain says green, do the opposite. That was a trick that Gusson used to say, and he used to say, put the palette right next to the painting, so you don't have to think. Because when you do this,
Well,
there's too much thinking. So it's an instinctual thing, I guess. I go back to that.
my wife found something to put on the refrigerator where Freud said, for the little things, trust your mind. For the big things, trust your heart. So when the shadow of the child is bright red under her arm, and of course it's echoing in part the blue and red of Grant sitting next to me, and the person I insist is Grant in the painting.
I'm a primary guy. What can I tell you?
You're blue and red.
Yeah.
I mean, what
I
do
just
you,
need
what do
yellow.
you do? And but I won't insist on this to the point of being tiresome, but I can't help it. As I tell my wife, but that's a good one from Freud. For the big things, trust your heart. For the big things, trust your heart. For the little things, use your mind.
I'm entertaining questions, please. Go ahead.
I was responding to these with like this enhanced tactility, it seems, in recent work. Like the touch is important. And then I thought about the subject matter, the intimacy with the subject matter, and the empathy in the touch. And I wondered, in reference to the color being introduced to the conversation, it's almost like they're vivacious and enhanced ways in recent years. And I wonder if you'd talk about that. In other words, there's more life and fluidity coming into the work, at least in my scope just looking around today. It feels really full and sensual. And I wondered what you had.
Well, I'm always anxious to talk. Yeah, I think that's I meant to do that. That was an intentional thing, to push the color, push the intensity, push the touch. So I use many mechanisms. I use brushes, I use rags, I use sponges, I use my hand, I use the palette. I pick up the palette and I go. So at the end, I can, if I don't like something, Roy asked me if I don't like, I pick up the palette and go all over the whole thing. And I cut into the paint if I don't like it. So I have all these great tools I have. I spend a lot of money on palette knives, and I look for them on eBay. Holbein is a great maker from Japan that has they're forged in Japan, and they don't break. So I can really beat away at things and cut out the paint if I want. Yeah, that's true. And that's true too about the color being non-literal, because I feel that that's a real trap.
Yeah, but I think you said a very important word, and that was empathy. Because there is a quality of empathy, a dramatic empathy that includes many shades of emotional color. Pity, amusement, criticism, such a whole rainbow of possibilities, you could say. But I think that's a very, very valuable word. I wish it had occurred to me earlier, but that was a valuable contribution.
Somebody asked me why I paint my family a lot, and part of my ethic is that, as is, painting is an art of color. You're only here now. Paint what's here in front of you. Paint now. What I studied with Jim Weeks, who was a California Bay Area artist, very well-known, very strong artist, part of the documented history. In that school, never had identity as part of the work. I guess he'd say it's my wife. Richard Diebenkorn would say it's my wife sitting in the sun or whatever. But I feel like I want to paint the people I know. I'm only here for maybe 10 years more. This will be my little piece. I walk out the door. I leave the room. That was me. I'm doing it here. I think as an artist, if you're painting figuratively, you should paint specifically as much as you can, and poetically as much as you can. And kill the literal. And kill the anecdotal. That's the rules in my head. It's probably impossible to do. Anecdote is a real enemy. For me.
All right. I went to the University of Iowa after Penn State. And I struggled initially with Mark Strand more, and eventually I had to get my degree in I had to get my degree in fiction because of that struggle. And I'm not going to talk about that. But we lived in a place Blacks on Brown Street. That's where I met my wife, and I'm not going to explain how that happened either. These are all terrible stories, but
Closer.
there was a painter living in the basement named Marco Cellotti, and I was fascinated with his paintings, and he was fascinated with a painter there named Fraccassini. And Fraccassini was an art professor, and also the great printmaker was at Iowa in those days. And
Lisansky? Is that who?
yeah. Say it louder so everybody can hear.
Mauricio Lisansky? was that?
Lazansky, right. So, and I think one of his daughters is a printmaker somewhere in Maine. Anyway, but I never knew them, but he used to talk about Fraccassini. Am I still on? No. Okay, Fraccassini. Because Fraccassini would go shopping and pretend he was blind. He'd pretend he was blind and stumble around and pick up things like steaks and hold them to his nose. Hold them to his nose. And Marco Cellotti was so pleased by this little drama that Fraccassini created with shopping in the supermarket, you know, and I mean everybody was on edge when Professor Fraccassini entered the Shop and Save or whatever. Anyway, that's all I can throw out for an onion.
The marbles are spreading. Yes. I will take an image off the internet that pleases me, and I'll like do a copy of it just to do something. I don't want a white surface, so I will just I mean I love abstract painting, so I always think maybe I'll be an abstract painter today, and I'm trying to make one, and this would probably anger my friends who are abstract painters, but I'm always disappointed, and I'm not done. That is, once you've engaged with that thing, now something has to happen. And it doesn't happen on that level for me. I'm not a formalist. I'm waiting for something to percolate. And it generally happens to be an image. Oh, no. I've used all sorts of photographic references. I blend them and I make them up and stuff. So I call that Sicily. There's a place in Sicily that's not unlike that, where they've dug out and taken, you know, you can go off, swim off the rocks, but it's not that. All the figures were, there was a different painting there of like a pond, let's say, something like that. And I wanted two big shapes. That's to answer your question. And I got the two big shapes. And it's usually, as Ken says, there's a color note in each painting, and it had to declare itself, and that was, I think, the aqua plane of the water going back. That was what I was looking for.
If you keep going at a time, if you're developing them as they grow. In the studio, you have 2, 4, whole bunch, or just one?
Well, right now I'm working on a group of paintings that are darker, and I wanted to get everything out of the way. So I have storage space. I can put everything away. But a lot of this work is in the past 2 years at the most. So all this is out, so I have a pretty empty studio. And to answer your question, I have 2 starts that I talked about. And literally I mixed a orange, a kind of earthy orange, and it reminded me of a wall in Rome. Now I can bring 10 people in that say, that's done, and I know someone who would love it. It's got slightly lighter colors in it, so it looks like there's an incipient space. It's exactly what I said. I create something, and it'll stay like that. and I make it good enough so I leave it like that. And so that's a 4 by 6 foot one. And then I have a 40-inch square one that's purple with light coming down or something like that. Like, looks like something from a religious magazine about God. There's like this light coming down. I just leave it like that.
I'm just wondering how long it stays in that state.
Well, depending on when, it can be long or short, depending on what, I try and give myself all sorts of options. I'm working on a painting of a pool in Westchester County. It's a friend's pool I've swum in for 10, 15 years. Why did I want to paint a painting of it now? I don't know. But I guess it answers this desire to make these darker paintings which are empty. I'm working on unpeopled places that are somewhat mysterious. I want something different, like all artists. And here's the thing, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, you're not enjoying that one thing you have as an artist, which is absolute freedom.
I just want to read a sentence from The Necessary Angel. It's a collection of essays that has puzzled me for 30 years because it seems like blather, but there's actually substance in it. And the sentence is, "The imagination loses vitality as it ceases to adhere to what is real."
Say that again.
I shall. The imagination loses vitality as it ceases to adhere to what is real. And that's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. Because what you're saying is what everybody who works at this whole business of being an artist discovers. Let me fulfill my promise. There was somebody with a question. Someone with a question in the back. Yes, madam. Please ask.
You got to speak up.
Ask
though.
the angel the question. I beg you. Yeah.
Every artist thinks they have a story to tell. That like a lot of musicians don't want to project exactly what it means because the listener takes away has their own story.
I want to give her the mic.
So, same with the painting. You have a story about this. I see something entirely different. In fact, the opposite.
Oh.
She had a phone in her hand.
Oh, okay.
And this looks, he looks weird. He looks like what you were thinking that she was thinking. I saw that in his face. So does it bother you that you think you're thinking something and somebody else sees?
No, it doesn't.
I'm sure everybody here has a different way of looking at it.
So you're saying you interpret that imagery as one thing, and versus what I think it was. Well, I'm just projecting a story on it for my own. It's just an operating story. It's not really what makes me do it. I wouldn't correct the painting in order to get that feeling more. It's just the way it is, and I have a story that I keep in my head. It's a little bit like you have what's your title for that painting? Well, you have an operating title. Whether it's the real title or the appropriate title is another thing. So I feel like, to answer your question, I don't care what you're thinking. It's fine. You can think whatever you want. That doesn't matter. But the reality is that, a whole other thing. I mean, if I asked my daughter what does she think about that, she'd say, "Oh, I look fat." I don't know. She'd probably, she'd have a whole different concern about it. Anyway, yeah. Go ahead. Yes. Did you want to ask something?
Yes, this is a time concept when you're doing the painting, does the time aspect change how you go along as you're going along with the painting? Because the way that you take a picture and that's captured and time stamped immediately.
Huh. Time.
Yeah, it's very complicated because we use up there on Earth.
Time.
Yeah, it's a very complicated question.
Well, I think there's ways artists combat time being, or in works of art, to make things not feel static. Because when I think of time, I think of momentary, and I think of a painting as not moving, so you're battling a kind of stasis. And there's, lines don't have to join, colors don't have to be the same. There's all sorts of things that you're doing that you're trying to upset expectations and work against the photograph. But they aren't, I don't think about time. I'm actually in a room that I've rented for 32 years. I let dust settle. I don't move things. There's dead bugs that have been there 4 years. I let shit gather. So time there isn't the same as the time in regular life where I have to pick up after the dog. You know, like it's a different, I savor that timelessness. I mean, there's a great painter called Giorgio Morandi, and we used to hear about the dust gathering on the bottles, and he would paint the dust on the bottles because it gave a kind of cool note on the top. So time and time lapsing is a subject on its own. And in terms of me and my work, I'm waiting for the time to, for things to happen, and then you're often at the end. So I have to go through this ritual of behaviors and things. Go ahead.
Can I just add to that Morandi story? He lived with his sisters, and we went into his studio once and thought they were doing him a favor and dusted the bottle.
Oh, we got mad at them. Yeah, right. I have a friend, I think she's dead, she studied with him at the Sarah Lawrence program, and I said, what was he? Of course I was, my God, you're like a saint. Let me hear about having him as a teacher. This is this artist Morandi, who everyone reveres if they're a painter, usually. Some don't. But he said, do you like Titian? And she said, not particularly. And he paused and he looked at her and he said, well, you will. Something like that. I thought, well, that's enough. That would keep you going for a semester, wouldn't it? This is Giorgio Morandi staring at a funnel upside down. You know, like, you know, he's the great picture of his glasses up.
I want to say something. Hello? Yes, I'm here. I want to say something about time,
You're
too.
there and then you're not there.
Okay. That rainbow will always be there. But on the other hand, in reality, a rainbow, to invoke a gender conflict, that rainbow is a promise that vanishes, that provokes a remark that many of us have uttered. Not me, but many of us. But you said, and then expect an explanation to follow why the rainbow of what you said has vanished. Does that ring a bell?
I like the idea that there's something temporary that's so beautiful.
But that is not temporary. That is there.
That'll be there.
That is a defiant act against time.
Any more questions? Oh, Roy, speak up.
So why the scale and why now? Have you always worked with the scale?
Why the scale?
Scale, the size of the painting, is it something different?
I've worked big and large all my life, and it's totally stupid because no one wants a big painting. I mean, nobody, particularly in New England. They want them in North Carolina where they build 8,000 square foot houses. You know, a painting didn't get painted until there was a buyer for it up until a year ago, 100 years ago. The painter didn't even lift a brush. So the concept of doing a big painting for nobody, I mean, it's a fool's errand, but I do them for my own experience and my own pleasure. I want that envelopment, the bigness, and I want to feel, and when I step up to it, I'm stepping into it. So that's,
Well said.
So are you pretty lively when you paint? Do you listen to music? Do you jump into it? Are you slow and calculating? What's your mentality like with a lot of your painting?
I'm sitting as much as
Oh.
I am sitting as much as possible. I can't, because I have bad knees. I had a knee replacement 10 months ago.
Ooh,
but
you too.
I do stand, but you notice I have these moon shoes on. My feet don't have as much padding anymore. So am I pretty active? Yeah, because I have to get up and go up to something. And if it's big, I have to be able to do this. And so I am, to answer your question. But I'm often working at an easel size like this, so I can be right there. And that's a different feeling with this, which is making a 5-inch, 10-inch stroke on a small scale. So that's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to do a small painting, let me just say that, physically.
On the other hand, that small painting over there, that small painting is beautiful. There's a sense of concentration in it. The one that's over the drinking.
The dogs or the people in the park?
Yeah, it's the pack. You called it the pack.
Yeah.
Or pack, something like that. That's beautiful.
In New York, where I visit my daughter frequently and go to Brooklyn, there's professional dog walkers you see all over New York, and they have 10 to 15 dogs, and they walk them. And they walk them quickly. And there was a guy walking dogs, and I couldn't resist it.
My grandson's a Cape Elizabeth dog walker.
Oh, there you
That's
go.
why, yeah.
Boy, yeah. I can't tell you about services. That's a great one.
What about series? You said you're working in marketing. Is that as much as a series?
Well, I love light. I love blasts of light, sun, shadow. I mean, it's very seductive to me. But I know emotionally, and that's drama. That's the old Rembrandt. Put a spotlight on it, it's going to create an emotion. That's theater and art. But I know engagement is tonal, and so I'm working on a closer toned, high-colored group of paintings. I'm trying. I say that, I announce it, I'll probably do 3 and stop. But it might be
You
too
say
difficult.
brilliant things. Eric Partridge was a famous. He made dictionaries, and I was looking at Eric Partridge's etymologies, and what I learned is that delight means, or originally meant, whatever it developed from, influenced by light. And that seemed like a very subtle expression of what you just said. That's all. That's all I can add. But influenced by light is a wonderful thing.
I'm going to let this girl ask me. Girl. Sorry. Woman. I don't want to insult you.
Hey, you call me a girl. Following up on Reggie's question, prior to your knee and foot issues, were you someone that moved a lot at the canvas, or not so much?
When you say that, I think, well, did I do that? It's necessity in a way, but I didn't dance around a lot, and I'm pretty trudging, and I have the palette on wheels, so I move it as close as possible up to the painting, so that I don't require that time lapse between the color mixing and the painting. So that's where time comes in a way, I guess. Just trying to economize movements so that it's all in the painting, I guess. Go ahead, John. Is it over? Are you calling it? Oh, okay.
So on your video that you posted today about the pool painting,
Yes.
talk about the use of technology
iPhone. The iPhone's a great tool for a painter because you can take pictures of previous moments. And this goes back to finishing the painting and my question of whether I'm overpainting things. I would take pictures and I would look back a month and I'd think, what did you get from that month of work? It was, I was looking for a substantial reason that I spent a whole month working on a painting, and I would see something in the overture of that image that I had lost. So a friend of mine said this, the beginnings promise the universe. It's how you develop it. So I feel like I'm at that moment where I'm using the iPhone to really record, try and hold on to something, maybe use also the tools that you can use to alter photos, to color in large areas. If I'm looking, I walk away from the painting and think, geez, I wonder if that had more aqua all over it. What if I worked the whole thing with one tone and made you can do almost like a glaze with color over the whole image and see what it looks like. So it's not like painting, but it's like an iPad that you can, iPaint is one of the programs. They have a simple version of it in the editing tool when you take photos. So I do that.
I think Grant has said in answer to your question, sir, at the camera, that he is excited, even when he's sitting down making a painting. My wife could tell you that I do a lot of writing lying down. I'm on the sofa and I've got my composition book that I'm scribbling in, and I'm lying down. And I don't lie down. I also have a knee replacement. The so-called good knee is unpredictable.
Can you write and talk at the same time? Can you
no.
just-
That's one thing that went out the window. I cannot multitask.
But if you
that's
could
it.
you dictate your writing?
Huh?
Could you dictate a poem? Or is it you find it in these?
I don't want to. I got to use my hands. I write everything out and I scribble and I make additions and I draw all kinds of lines, unintelligible to any normal person.
Okay. Well,
It's been an hour.
oh, okay. It's time to stop. Any more questions? Please come up to me afterwards if you want, or to Ken.
And I'm going to sneak right out the door.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.